a lot in the news. GDP growth, 5%. We're looking to get GDP growth in Kenya to 5.5% and so on and so forth, you know. I want to just look at that for a moment, because many people hear and say that, honestly, yeah, GDP has grown, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it. If you look at the common wananchi, you don't feel it. If you're in business, credit is tight. You know, business is not as perhaps as great as it was before. The opportunities are not perhaps as many as they were before. So that growth and the optimism that you hear or read about in the press doesn't feel as exciting as it is. So one of the reasons, by the way, that I must mention is the fact that people need to recognize that we're not so big in the larger scheme of things as Kenya. And I want to give you some numbers before I ask John a question. And one of those numbers is this. Some of those statistics are this. GDP in Kenya right now, or 2016, the whole year of 2016 was $70 billion. In Nigeria, their GDP was $405 billion. In South Africa, it was $294 billion. In the US, in 2016, their GDP in absolute terms was 18.5 trillion, not billion, but trillion dollars. And so 70 billion in the larger scheme of things, growing by 5% is not much. But if the US grew by 1%, that's a heck of a lot. That's like growing by 2.5 times of Kenya's economy by 1%. So first we must accept that. But I want you to just unpack this for me. Why is it that a common wananchi, you know, you and me don't quite feel it? We're not at excited, oh, GDP has grown, you know. In fact, we don't even pay attention to those numbers because we don't feel that it has impacted my life in any way. Maybe you can just speak to that.
So we'll have to distinguish between economic growth, which is measured by GDP growth, and economic development.
Okay.
So economic growth or GDP growth is more of a figure, the quantitative numbers you mentioned. So, and then if you look at economic development, it's more of qualitative. So we're looking at the standards of living. You're looking at quality of education, quality of healthcare, you know, quality of life. So basically, the reason why that is happening is because of institutions. And institutions are basically organizations within a country that are responsible for trickling down the effects of that GDP growth to the common wananchi. So unfortunately, in our country, sometimes we find inefficient systems and institutions, and this is mostly manifested in the form of corruption. So sometimes we might not be able to feel the impact of GDP growth because of that reason. Another reason could be because of the growth that we're hearing about is concentrated in particular sectors. So currently, agriculture contributes about 27.9% to GDP growth. So if there's a lot of growth in agriculture alone, let's say 6%, that is enough to drive GDP growth. So people in other sectors might not feel the impact of that because it's only concentrated to the agricultural sector. Another thing is that over the last few years, we've seen a lot of government focus on infrastructure spending in the construction sector. So whereas those people are able to feel the impact of that growth, other people are not able to feel that. So I think those are the main reasons why.
Yeah, very interesting. So it is growing, and it might be growing in a sector you're not in at the moment, or perhaps it's growing, but the institutions in place are not spreading that growth and development. It's actually really about development. I like what you said. It's about development. And it's so key for us to engage in structures, and even as these leaders come into power, to ensure that they do the right things to make our development progress, because it's for that. And that's the way that I'll be able to feel that growth.
Yes.
Personally. This is great stuff. Please subscribe. And if you have any questions on economic growth, on economic development as a country, or anything else that you want to know where this is concerned, please write to us, write in my comment section. Feel free to send me an private inbox message, or an email on sema@moneywise.co.ke, and I will be sure to reply. This is Rina Hicks, and your MoneyWise. We are looking at investing in Kenya.